Greetings, everybody. I am Reverend Berry Burr, Interfaith Ambassador for Emissaries of Divine Light. It is my delight to be walking with you to a place beyond separation over the next 7 days. So wherever you are in the world, I pray that your new year is filled with peace and wholeness, and I welcome you to 2024 and to 7 days of rest and reweaving wholeness. 7 Days of Rest is a global online program started in 2017 by Shelley Ostroff and Jan Golding. Its purpose was and is to provide an annual open co-creative event dedicated to the healing and replenishment of the planet and all its inhabitants. Everyone is invited to enjoy the rich array of offerings from around the globe, and you're welcome to visit 7daysofrest.org to explore the options. So what are we doing here? For this, the 7th year of the event, Shelley and Jan have mindfully intuited the overall theme of reweaving wholeness. It is a theme that encompasses a lot of very valid presuppositions, such as the existence of brokenness in the world, and the hint that there was a time before brokenness. So the possibility of healing is with us. Also, the concept of weaving evokes the coming together of many strands in an organized and supportive way. The purpose of weaving is to create something that is greater than the sum of its parts, such as a container or a basket. The strands of collective mindfulness that we will weave together over the next 7 days are the daily topics: Ancient Mother, Rivers of Life, Ancient Father, Seasons of Light, Breath of Love, Nature's Dreaming, and Intimacy with the Infinite. Each week, our container will be a receptacle for some deep wisdoms, sharings, and blessings. And so, out of the chaos of our world will emerge the nuggets of magic that will guide and strengthen us for the year ahead. These days between the years are very powerful in their potential. 2023 has ended, 2024 has not quite gotten underway yet, and our prayer is that together we will walk into the year, arm in arm, intentionally armed with collective purpose and the promise that out there, somewhere beyond our human differences and conflicts, is a place of primal spirituality where we are together, we are not separate, and where we may experience the truth of love as the creative force of the universe. Lighting this candle is symbolic of our prayer for peace in the world. I'm delighted to welcome Becky Wagner, Interfaith Support at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. Becky is an attunement server. She comes from a pagan tradition, and she is, in truth, a wisdom keeper. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you, Mary. It's nice to be here.
So, Becky, you are here today to speak to us about Ancient Mother in the context of reweaving wholeness. So as a person with a deep earth-based spiritual practice, can you just share a little bit about what does the term Ancient Mother mean to you personally?
For me, it's all about the earth. It's all about her systems and what's happening with her and our existence on her, and paying attention to that. Over these last weeks, I've been thinking about that a lot. And I went back and I read Dr. Lovelace's book, Gaia, and I think that's kind of where it started for me, is to begin thinking about Earth as a living being and relating to her that way. And that started a while ago for me, and it just has grown from there. So when I think of Ancient Mother, that's where it starts for me.
If that's where it starts, then where does it take you? I'd love to know a little bit about what pagan practice has been for you.
So it involves following the Wheel of the Year, which is 8 holidays that we follow around the Wheel of the Year that many worldwide holidays have been built upon, beginning with winter solstice, which we just celebrated, and which the Christmas holiday is built upon. And the next one will be Imbolc, which is February 2nd, which is actually a holiday celebrating the continuing return of the light. And it's an absolutely wonderful holiday. So we make a point of paying attention to those holidays. And among those holidays are equinoxes. And so in March, there's the spring equinox. And so we do that around the Wheel of the Year. And I've been doing that since I was in my 40s. It's almost 30 years. And so it becomes a part of who I am very quickly. And then also it's paying attention to the cycle of the seasons of the moon, because the moon has an effect on what happens here on Earth in many, many ways. And so I pay attention to that. Over the years, I've been befriended by astronomers and physics people who have come to classes and meetings of pagan people. And it's been wonderful because they've enriched our meetings by the scientific knowledge that they bring. And right now there's a man who is kind of his hobby, I suppose, is taking pictures of the moon. And he posts them on his Facebook page. And then I'm a follower of his, and they're just wonderful. And then he started taking pictures of the universe, and it's just amazing what he can do with his little, hobby scope. And I just love it, and it's great. And I don't know, 15 years or so ago, there was a professor who taught at Indiana University who started coming to our pagan meetings. And I asked him at one point why he did that. And he said, when science starts bumping up against the things that we can't explain, then I need to be listening to people who are talking about things that can't be explained. And so it was really wonderful having him a part of what we were talking about. So physics and metaphysics at that point in time were sharing the stage in our meetings, and it was absolutely amazing and wonderful. And so even though I suppose paganism has a history and maybe a belief by people that it's all non-belief and fantasy, it is very much influenced and tied by what's going on in the scientific world. And I just appreciate that so much. So, my life revolves around what's going on in the world, the environmental world, and I pay attention to that. And I'm a gardener. And
the seasons mean a lot to you.
They do. And when I'm working in the garden, I'm communing with what's going on around me. I'm paying attention to what's going on in the soil. And I'm listening to the plants. And I'm paying attention to what's moving in the soil. And those things speak to me. And so I really try to listen, because I think they have something to tell me. And that's where I get my advice from the mother, is right there.
That is such a beautiful way of connecting with all of life and listening to all of life and really being aware of the messages that life brings to us. And I'm curious to know that whether in your experience, Ancient Mother is the same thing as Divine Feminine.
I don't know. I've honestly not been drawn to become involved or a part of the Divine Feminine movement that is kind of blossoming right now. And I struggle to disassociate Divine Feminine from the overall concept, I suppose, of Ancient Mother, because for me it's all the same. It's like I was thinking about you. You asked me at one point how Ancient Mother and how Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine connect, and how Ancient Mother has that effect. And I'm not sure that I've ever met a human that is a very good example of sacred masculine. I've had lots of encounters with animals that I consider sacred masculine. I mean, I can remember countless times that I've had eye contact with animals that I would consider a sacred masculine experience. And the same thing with the the Divine Feminine. I can remember countless times, like the she bear, the mother bear that's out to protect her cub. That for me is an example of the Divine Feminine, where taking care of and nurturing that new life is an example for me. I suppose in my own experience, having children and having that experience of being a new mother and holding that new life, and I nursed all of my children, being connected in that intimacy, that physical intimacy. It's very much a physicality for me. And I think that is as close as I can come to really understanding the Divine Feminine in the human world for me.
So, Becky, do you think that Ancient Mother seeks some kind of restoration of the balance with sacred masculine?
I do.
So if I'm thinking of Gaia as one of the primal deities, according to Greek mythology, all right, and I'm thinking of Gaia's relationship with Uranus, her husband, and it was often an imbalanced relationship. It was often a relationship of conflict. And I'm wondering how, with that history, does Ancient Mother, who is our source, our womb, how does she want to restore the balance?
Well, you have to remember that those stories and those myths are created by humans. So they reflect the brokenness, because that's what we've experienced. And I think that in order for us to understand unbrokenness, the healing that Ancient Mother wants, we have to look to the earth. We have to begin to understand what true reciprocity is. We have to begin to understand what her systems are teaching us. So for me, it's instead of us conceiving of ourselves as being the top of the pyramid, because oftentimes, you see a pyramid with humans at the top and everything else down below. And I guess for me, I prefer to see everything in a circle, and human beings being a part of this big circle. Um, and we fit into this circle. And I was looking at pictures last night as I was thinking about this, and the pyramid in the particular picture I was looking at last night named it ego. And I thought that was really appropriate. It was an ego pyramid. And for me, it's almost a paradigm shift for humans, for our species, that we need to start thinking not so much of us as being the top of the pyramid. No, in fact, we are a part of what's going on here on the earth, that we need to begin to think of ourselves not so much as running things, as being in control, because we're not. That we need to fit into what's going on, and we don't clearly have an understanding of what's going on. The more I learn about the earth and her systems, and if I ever have an opportunity to live my life over again, and maybe I will, I'm coming back as a scientist so that I can learn as much as possible about systems and understanding how she regenerates and the reciprocity of what's going on and just all of that, because I think she knows. And that's the ancient mother that I want to know, because that level of love is that's the level of love that I want to be able to attain. I was listening yesterday to the service at sunrise, and we were talking about the Christ love, and I think again the Christ love has been created for the human, for our species, so that we have a clear understanding of what that means to love like that, to come into the world and be that kind of love. And that is so valuable. And yet I think that the earth has the capacity to love even more than that, because I decided a long time ago that everything around us, all of this creation, was created out of love. And that crossover point, that creative point, is where all of this beauty, all of the trees, the green, the air, everything that's happening around us that makes life possible is here out of that kind of love. It's almost a love that I can't almost conceptualize. And that's the kind of love that I want to be able to understand and share. And that's the kind of person that I want to be on this earth, the kind of person who understands not only what's going on in the human world, but what's going on in all of the systems around me, and that I can feel a part of that. Not just the human being, but I can relate to the other beings that share this globe with me.
We do tend to see ourselves as separate from the rest of creation.
We do.
So how, Becky, do we help Ancient Mother to reweave wholeness?
Listen. Observe. Walk out in her. For 7 years, I lived with a wonderful man, and that was his spirituality. He chased wildflowers. I learned so much from Harry. What we did on weekends, we would go to a part of Colorado just to find wildflowers, and he would find these flowers, and he would take the seeds. He would harvest the seeds, and he would take them home, and he would spread them in his garden, and then he would wait for them to germinate and just watch them grow. And that was his spirituality. That was how he connected with the divine. And I think that there is so much to be learned just by walking among the trees and paying attention to what's going on in the debris that's on the ground. That's your feet. Mushrooms eat things that are dying, and they make new life from that. And it happens all around us all the time. And it happens in the dark. And it's messy. And so, I think that I just don't think that we as a human species value that. We don't take the time to do that. And I think that there's something to be said for making time in our lives for that kind of reflection. And I really value that a lot. I value that. And I miss not being able to be out on the mountaintops. I used to be able to hike and walk a lot. I miss not being able to do that so much. But I can still garden.
So would you say that pretty much encapsulates your dreams and aspirations for 2024? What would you like to see happening? If you're speaking for Ancient Mother and you have such an affinity with the earth.
Yes, I would plead with us as a species to make time and room in our lives for more of nature, more of earth, more of an understanding of what's going on, to take the Christ love that has been given to us to share with one another and offer that to the earth and expand upon that. Because I think that she has so much to teach us about that love. I really think that I wish I would have known Jesus, and I suppose a lot of us wish that. But I think the Christ love encompasses that kind of creative love. I really do. I really think that that's part of the teaching, that we as creators have the capacity to be able to open our hearts to include the earth that supports us, and to become less it's a paradigm shift, I suppose, to become more a part of what's going on around us, and to think about the food that we eat, how it's grown, the things that we use and what happens to them when we're finished with them, the reciprocity, why we harvest what we harvest, and what happens when we harvest. There's a book, everybody should read it, Braiding Sweetgrass. It's an absolutely wonderful book. I highly recommend it, because the native peoples had an understanding about the reciprocity that's involved in living on this globe. And I think we need to remember that. And a lot of it is remembering.
It really is. I agree with you. And I think that every time we eat a meal is a great opportunity to just remember that reciprocity. So, Becky, we're coming to the end of our time. It's just flown past. And what I want to know is, you, I know, pulled an attunement card for today. Tell us about that. What emerged?
I actually pulled a lot of attunement cards. And I had to narrow it down, and I settled on two. The one I think that is my favorite is attunement card number 49, which is the spirit of love. And if I have time, I would just like to read it, if that's okay.
We won't have a time for you to read it, but you can maybe just tell us what the affirmation is and just speak into it for a moment.
The affirmation is, I am the sun who shines upon all people from the depth of the human soul. And it's just about encompassing all of us, everything. It's about including everything that you see around you, not only humans, not only our hearts, but the hearts of all beings everywhere. And it's called The Spirit of Love, the World, card number 49. If you have the cards, I recommend it to you.
That's very beautiful, Becky. Thank you so, so much. So I just have one last question for you. And that is that as you move further into this time of your life, as a wisdom keeper, I think you've earned that title. What do you see changing between the generations? And how do you see Ancient Mother being expressed through the generations?
Well, I guess I really believe that the children being born right now are coming in with so much more remembering than in the past. And so, but I still think that we as humans, we as parents, we as teachers, we as mentors, we have our work cut out for us. We really need to be paying attention to what's important, not only for our survival, but for the survival of our species, but the survival of the planet. And going forward into the future in the new earth. And I suppose, when I think of that term, the new earth, I think of not only what we as humans can be, but I think of what we as planetary beings can be and how we relate to the other beings that are on this sphere with us, and how we regard them and how we think about them, and the carefulness in which we grow the food that we consume, and just my grandchildren are really pretty aware of what's going on. So I have a lot of hope and there's a lot of promise in the future, but we still have our work cut out for us.
But I do like that we end on a message of hope and promise for the future. Thank you, Becky. What an amazing conversation. I think we should definitely have booked an hour, but we didn't. We booked half an hour. And I'm so thrilled to have had this time with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And to those who have joined us from various parts of the world, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you've really felt the depth of the conversation and the wisdom that Becky has brought to us. So remember to join us at the same time, same place tomorrow to hear what Marileen Chitterai from Durban, South Africa, has to say about rivers of life. My name is Reverend Berry Burr. I am the Interfaith Ambassador for Emissaries of Divine Light. It's been an absolute joy to share this time with you. Thank you.
Blessings all.